Join us on the Recovery Matters podcast, where we celebrate the power of resilience and explore multiple pathways to recovery.
So, another episode of the Recovery Matters podcast. I'm here with Kevin Connelli. Do you want to say hi?
Hello. Good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Are you nervous?
A little bit.
Good.
I've never done anything like this before, so.
There you go. When I was nervous, it was always my sponsor would say, that's God shaking the truth out of you.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's true or not. This is the Recovery Matters podcast. What matters to you about recovery? What's the first thing you want to talk about?
Recovery encompasses a lot of different things, whether it be how I am as a father or a boyfriend or, a son, how I interact with people at my job. Recovery, I think, plays a role in all of that, with keeping me, in a nicer mood, not so anxious all the time and stressed out. And, when you're in addiction, you're constantly worried about how to feed it.
Yeah.
So when you don't have to worry about that on a daily basis and an hourly basis, it makes life a lot easier and more enjoyable.
Well said.
Yeah.
So where'd you grow up?
All throughout Connecticut, Plainville, Avon, Farmington, West Hartford. Mm-hmm. My parents were divorced, so I did a lot of moving around. If I was to say that I grew up if I was to say one place, it would be West Hartford with my grandma on Rosedale Road. Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
And what were you like as a kid?
Happy for the most part. I think I acted out at times when I got a little older. I was also timid and scared. My father wasn't the easiest to deal with. So, that kind of kept me on my toes a lot. But, my mother balanced that out with being a great mom. And I think for the most part, I was manageable. I mean, I know my mom says I was difficult at times and would make her cry occasionally. And I did have my little outbursts and stuff like that. But, I didn't start to have any negative or detrimental behavior until I started to get a little older. Mm-hmm. And certain experiences, I think, kind of started to cause me to have some anger and resentment. Mm-hmm. Especially when I looked around as a kid and I saw a lot of my friends and cousins, their parents were together and, they had that solid home life, and home base. And, it's like Monday with mom, Tuesday with dad, Wednesday with mom, Thursday with dad. It was,
What did you love to do as a kid? Like, what type of activities did you love to do?
You want to talk about something that I enjoyed in my childhood? I always loved watching my grandmothers cook. Because when I was with my dad, when I was young, we were at his parents, and I was raised a lot by my grandma in West Hartford, so I always used to watch both of them cook. A lot of food influenced family gatherings.
Of course.
Almost entirely.
When we were kids, and we loved to do things, and then we'll get to this part about where the alcohol and/or drugs kick in. And we tend to forget about what we really liked as kids. And I was able to find things like fishing and wading through swamps and catching turtles. And, I loved to do that as a kid. Mm-hmm. I had one or two buddies that I would do that with. It wasn't like a whole gang of us or anything.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'd just be there myself. We used to have army men, the little green army.
Oh, the little green guys?
Yeah.
I had those.
We used to set those.
I had those. I love those things.
So life is good, even with the simplest things. We have, the kids these days have all these like electronic toys.
Oh my gosh, my son, yeah, it's
and
just,
all that. And we're
crazy.
happy with action figures or little green army men.
Be happy with a football all day on a Saturday.
Oh, yeah.
Now they need Xbox and TikTok and all that stuff, which is fine, but it's just,
it's just different.
It's foreign to me.
I always say if we had that technology available, I would have used that. We were trying to string like cans with a string, and
I do though would prefer the way that we used to play. I used to play tag and on Friday nights at 8:00 at night, down the street with all my cousins, and that to me is more growing up than sitting and scrolling through TikTok and stuff like that.
Texting everybody.
That's why whenever I talk to my son, I'm just like, make sure you go outside today, okay? Let's get some outside time, in which he's good about that, so I don't worry. But I remember when Nintendo came out,
Yeah, me too.
So,
what happened in your teens? How was alcohol and or drugs part of your life, and what happened?
boarding school kind of threw me off a little bit. It kind of made me feel like I was abandoned.
Yeah.
You
For
know,
you that you identified that.
yeah, I remember I kind of had to tell myself I still remember the first couple days I was there, I got beat up. I was there from 14 to 18.
Mm-hmm.
Come home for a short time during the summer. Coming home during the school year was based on what group level you were classified on, depending on your behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It was 1 through 5. And so if you were just a problem and were always fighting and lipping off to faculty, you were more towards group 5, which gave you less privileges, which meant you were more,
Mm-hmm.
locked down.
Mm-hmm.
And then group 1, you could go home for 2 weekends a month if your parents wanted to pick you up, and, you could leave your dorm room, certain hours and go to where we called the cave, which had like a little snack bar if you had the privilege and you had money in an account to go there. If you were not in one of the better groups, you spent any free time up in what was called the attic. And that was at the top of this building. The main building was called Cluett Hall, and the top room was all stark white, and you just had rows of desks, and there were the desks with the built-in desk to the chair,
Yeah.
and you just sat there for however many hours you had to kill. And you could do work, but you couldn't talk. There was nothing to look at, so that sucked.
I would say you were probably more inclined to the attic than the cave.
I was, yeah. Unfortunately.
Just by judging by listening to your story.
Unfortunately, I didn't always. I still have an issue with authority sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes my stupid decision making can get the best of me even today, and
And did you not want to be there when you were there?
No, I did not.
You would have preferred not to have been there. So what happened when you got out?
I went on a rampage
So
because I didn't have anybody tell me what to do anymore.
So describe Rampage. Where were you?
I spent some time in Hartford. Well, I went to Roger Williams for criminal justice.
Were you living on your own?
No. I went and lived in dorms at Roger Williams, but almost every weekend, I'd take a Greyhound bus home without telling any family, and I would hang out in Hartford, and do drugs and drink, and I did that there as well. And I would have been on academic probation if I had went back for my sophomore year, but I didn't want to. When you go from 4 years, literally all your entire day is structured.
Right.
It's like, you go from here to here, from here to here. You had to play a sport every season, so you had something to do after classes were done until cafeteria, dinner at night. And so when you go from that, and then, I could sleep through a class and I'd be like, nobody's going to come and smack me and make me do chain gang because I missed class today. Well, I'm not fucking going.
Right. Exactly.
So I ended up screwing that opportunity up. And then when I came home that summer, I did heroin for the first time, and my father found it in my room and ended up kicking me out of the house, and I went down to North Carolina, where I spent 22 years because my mom had moved down there. So that's what got me down there. Mom ended up moving back to Connecticut maybe 2 years after I got there, and they left. I love you, Mom, but I never got an invite to go with them back. So I stayed in Charlotte. I didn't have a place to live. So I lived on sofas and out of my car. And I used to sneak into these townhomes that weren't totally done being constructed. And I would sleep in them and then just wake up before construction crews got there and leave. And then I was, eventually kind of got my feet back on the ground and got an apartment with a buddy and started selling cocaine. And was doing more coke than I was selling.
Right.
And, and in between all these times, there was, I would use alcohol and that's just kind of how it started. Just, anger took over and like I said, resentment, and I just self-medicated with alcohol and narcotics.
Were you working at the time?
I've always worked.
Were you a chef at the time or working in the cooking?
I've always cooked.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the only thing I've ever done.
Yeah. I would say that industry has.
When you're an addict, it's the perfect one to be in.
Yeah, right.
It's like an addict's dream. You get paid to go into work and live in chaos and get messed up while you do it.
Yeah,
Like, what could be better than that?
I've had a few stints as a cook myself, so I get that part.
I've been doing it
in restaurants
22 years now, and seen a lot of shit.
So you're working in Charlotte.
Yeah.
What's the progression like for you?
I don't really think there was any progression. I think it
Really?
was just
You were just all the way out from the beginning?
having fun, like
Yeah.
just full bore. Didn't give a shit.
Right.
I got an assault charge. I got 2 DUIs. I had been arrested numerous times. I just still didn't care. I look back now and I'm just like, man. I mean, like some of the things that I did and the decisions I made, I'm just like, what were you thinking? Like, I mean, it just blatantly just did not give a shit about consequences or anything for that matter. I mean, I usually had alcohol and cocaine on my nightstand.
Yeah.
And when the buzz would kick in and I would feel normal, I would go out and I would make sure I got what I needed for the day, feed myself, the addiction. Then I'd go to work and cook for 6-7 hours, and then the night was just drugs and hanging out with women and being stupid. And we used to be so dumb. We used to put the top down on my Mustang and just fire shots out of a 9mm out of the convertible of the car because I just really didn't care.
Yeah.
We'd be driving down a road in Charlotte and just shoot up in the air just for the fuck of it, like, because I was just dumb.
Yeah.
And when you get high and stuff like that, you don't really care.
That's for sure. So where does all this end up, this lifestyle?
I cleaned myself up for a little while. I started dating a girl. I became very close with her parents. They became like parents to me. And, to the point where like her and I broke up and I stayed living with them. They considered me their son, and they ended up pushing me to get into culinary school. And I went to culinary school and I actually felt like I was doing something with my life. And I kind of cleaned my act up. And I met my ex-wife, my son's mother, at culinary school. I had a job at a sports bar and she was a bartender, and we ended up dating, and she got pregnant and we got married and my son was born. And I graduated culinary school and got my first legitimate sous chef job, and I did really good for a few years. We had a nice condo in Charlotte in South Park, or in off South Boulevard, excuse me. I had a good job, and my son was healthy and beautiful, and it was like the family life that I had always wanted as a kid. I was having, and then her and I grew apart, and the typical money stressed us out, and then we ended up separating, and that's when I went back down a dark road. I didn't have my son every day. I once again lost that family structure that I had always so much wanted.
Yeah.
And so then I kind of said, fuck it again, and went down a bad road.
How old's your son today?
13.
Okay. So this is a little while ago. So you went down another bad road.
Yeah.
And where did that one end up?
That ended up me living in a single wide in South Carolina, and I was just waking up, smoking, drinking, doing whatever drugs I could get my hands on. I was completely just unhealthy and disgusting, in my opinion. I wasn't motivated to do anything. I didn't have a job, and I just kind of hid out in the middle of the country, in the middle of nowhere, and just, and then one day I woke up and had found out that my cousin died of, a drug overdose. Whether it was, he knew he was overdosing or not is still a question, but he died of a drug overdose, and I don't know why, but I was kind of like, shit. And then I just packed up my bag and I drove to Connecticut to live with my mom and stepdad because when they got back up here, or when they left Charlotte, they went back to Simsbury, where they lived for a while. Now they're down in Atlanta, but I went and stayed with them for a little while and got my shit together, and I was sober for like, I don't know, 80 or 90 days. And then I broke and relapsed and packed my car up and went back to Charlotte and just went back to doing dumb shit.
Wow.
Then again, realized that wasn't going to work because I kind of hit rock bottom. I came back up to Connecticut. Moved in with my grandma. Didn't get my act together. Just worked as a line cook and lived paycheck to paycheck and drank just about every day. Locked myself in my room at my grandma's. She's 90 years old. She passed away a few days ago. But she was,
What?
yeah.
Just a few days ago?
Yeah.
I'm so sorry.
Oh, she was ready to go. She lived a long,
Yeah,
amazing,
but
beautiful
still.
life. She was 95 and,
Yeah.
she was ready to go be with Jesus in heaven and be back with my grandfather. So, she went peacefully. So it was, all that we could ask. I appreciate it though. But yeah, so she was old. So she didn't, she just sat in her chair all day. So I had free reign to just be left alone in the house, didn't have to pay rent, so I just went back to feeling sorry for myself and being a loser and just working. I'd go to the gym and then, which is kind of stupid, I would drink all night long and all day on my days off, but I'd still go to the gym and work out. It didn't make sense, but and then I got kicked out of there for the most part and went back to Charlotte. Just kind of maintained. I'm not gonna say I wasn't sober, but I wasn't binging and bendering.
Right.
I was just kind of going through the motions. I did spend a lot of time with my son, which I think is why I was able to stay for the most part, under control, because that did motivate me every day, and I find genuine happiness in being with him. So that was, I got a couple years with him to make up for lost time and to just enjoy being a dad, because I'm very good at it when I'm there. I just haven't always been there because I just don't want my son to see me when I'm in a bad way. So I'd rather be distant. And then, but it's been a cycle. It's clean up my act, go on a bender, sabotage everything, lose everything from relationships to family to my job. And, then I would rebuild, then sabotage again. It's just been this never ending cycle. So I'm hoping that this time is the time that, I'm able to keep
So
myself.
where are you in the cycle now?
I'm sober. I have a good job. I'm trying to repair the damage I did my last bender with my ex-girlfriend. I'm actually going to go see her after I leave here. I made some, I relapsed twice when her and I started dating, and I do feel like she's the one that I'm supposed to be with. So I am trying my hardest to fix the mistakes I made, trying to mend relationships, trying to, reconnect with my son, and just kind of make better choices. I do feel though that at the same time, seeing the way I feel when I can help somebody, it does kind of motivate me, and it is a nice feeling that I've never really felt before. So I have, I would like to eventually get into the recovery coaching class, and when I feel that I'm ready and able to, at a point where I can really help somebody and I'm stable myself.
How will you know you're ready?
Well, that's a good question.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Does anybody really know? Is anybody really ever fully ready? Once you're an addict, you always have that possibility of relapsing.
Yeah, so that's kind of my point. You're ready you're ready right now. There's nothing precluding you from helping another individual right now.
No, I know.
Okay.
My ex, who I'm going to see, she's a diagnosed bipolar and struggles with manic depression, and so I'm trying my best right now to kind of be there for her and help her get through when she does get slammed with these manic depressive, because it really does ground her. She pretty much it's like almost give up type stuff. So.
Right.
Are you ready to make a difference in the lives of others? If so, then you should consider becoming a recovery coach. Recovery coaches are trained to help people in recovery, seeking recovery, or struggling with addiction. They provide support, guidance, and resources to help people on their recovery journey. CCAR Training is the leading provider of recovery coach training programs. Our programs are designed to teach you the skills and knowledge, what we call the science, while giving you an understanding of your own art needed to be a successful recovery coach. We offer a variety of training options, most offered online. If you're interested in becoming a recovery coach or just learning more, I encourage you to visit our website or contact us today. We would be happy to answer any questions you have and help you get started on your journey to becoming a recovery coach. We hope you'll visit us at www.addictionrecoverytraining.org to learn more.
So you talked about this pattern of sabotaging, like you in your words, you get a little better, then you sabotage, or things start to improve and you sabotage. What do you think's behind that? Have you thought about it?
Anger.
Anger about what?
I guess I just blame everybody else, or I did blame. Try to look at it differently now, but I did, blame, whether it be blaming family, my parents.
The abandonment thing.
Yeah, I think as an addict, your first response to your behavior is to blame other people.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I think that especially when you're actively in addiction, you're going to blame everybody because you don't make any wrong choices. Everything you do is right, and the reason you're an addict is
they're all self-serving, so they're all right.
Yeah, when you're an addict, it's everybody else's fault, not yours, and it's everybody else's reason why you picked up a bottle and not yours.
Right.
Do I think there's other variables that affect why people are addicts? Yes, but I do think that
I was asking about you, not other people.
True.
Have you gone to treatment ever?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I've detoxed 12 times now.
12 times. Have you done any inpatient stays or?
I did 15 days at Middlesex in the psych ward, and then I gave Rushford a shot. But it was not what I expected it to be, and I dipped after a day. Right. I had done a 7-day detox a few years back in North Carolina, and then I've done numerous medical detoxes in the hospital. I mean, I don't know, maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago, because I'm early right now. When I met Natasha, when she came into my hospital room, that was the last time I detoxed, and that was a hard one because they had me in ICU because my blood pressure went up to like 180. Wow. So that was a rough one to get through. That was 7 days. It took me to get over that one. But I've been sober since then, and feel healthy.
So what did you learn in all those treatment settings about addiction and recovery? What have you learned personally?
I think that obviously those situations and experiences cause you to know that what you're doing is wrong and detrimental to you. Did it ever scare me off from going back to bendering? No.
Yeah, I don't know. For me, I wouldn't use the term wrong. I do like that you said detrimental to my health. It doesn't, it's not good for your health. Like you said, you can make better choices. What do you do to take care of your recovery today? How are you staying sober?
I mean, it's like a day at a time, if not less than that at a time for me.
Yeah.
I try to stay as active here as I can.
Here being CCAR.
Yeah.
And what do you do at CCAR?
I'll come in on my days off in the morning because I work during the day, and I'll come in and do the all recovery meetings, and I talk to Natasha quite often.
And Natasha is, just so people that are listening know who she is.
She's a recovery coach.
And how'd you meet her? And just so I know
you
mentioned it, but I want you to.
She was the first person I met in the hospital from CCAR, and she kind of gave me that glimmer of hope.
So Natasha is an emergency department recovery coach for CCAR.
Yes.
And did you request to see one, or
No, I did not.
She just kind of showed up at your door?
She walked into the room and I looked up and
What did she say to you? Do you remember?
I don't remember. I was so, they had me on so much Valium and I was in a rough way. I mean, I remember her and I connecting. I remember her telling me some of her story and I gave her a big hug, and I remember I was kind of a little taken back because I was kind of, well, like she came in here and she doesn't know me, I don't know her, but she just kind of, just open arms to me, offered me, a way out of this. Mm-hmm. And I, wasn't ready or prepared for that to happen. I just thought I would get detoxed and I'd be sent on my way. And she kind of, changed things and I ended up coming here, when I got out and got my car, and her and I have stayed in touch. But I guess she just kind of gave me like that little push and that little resource to save myself.
Mm-hmm. Save yourself from what?
From going back down that road.
Yeah. Because
it's not a good one, obviously.
Well, you choose it a lot.
I do, yeah. It's the easier road.
How about that, right?
Yeah, it's the fun road.
You know what the trick is? I think we think that is the easier road. It's easier in the moment.
Yeah, when that buzz kicks in.
Right. But in the long term, it's actually the more difficult road.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the paradox of
but you're not, you're not thinking about that.
No.
Something I'm very good at is I've for a lot of my life, I don't care about consequences. Ooh. I live in the moment.
Yeah.
So when I'd stop at the liquor store and get that fifth of vodka and get home and have Netflix, a chaser, and vodka in my room to myself, I didn't have a care in the world.
It's fascinating, Kevin, that you're on this kind of like this roller coaster. But what I do see is I see a little spark in you. And if I may, I just give you a suggestion that you've indicated the ability to help somebody else. So not only when you come to CCAR, to one of our recovery community centers, to go to an all recovery meeting and figure out ways that you can help others, because you can help others today. You have enough self-awareness, enough insight onto your patterns and to what you do and to what the possibilities of recovery are, that you're definitely able to help others too.
I think so.
Yeah, me too.
That's something that I feel like I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm. You've worked at how many kitchens over the years?
Over my career, probably 300.
Yeah, and so you've seen a lot of different type of people that are probably in various stages of addiction, and probably areas of. Oh, I do. Some idea, but maybe not your experience particularly, or in recovery, right? Or even pursuing recovery. Like there might be that guy that doesn't drink or use.
Yeah, you've got a lot of those. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But when people are struggling, are you the type to help or to ignore? What do you do if somebody asks you for help?
I would help without question.
Right. That's the heart of who you are.
Yeah.
Right.
And
you'll help a lot more people if you work a program of recovery so you can help people find recovery. That's what you choose to do.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to tell you that I believe in you.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
No, I do, because I didn't hear that a lot as a person growing up.
Yeah.
And just in our short conversation here, I can tell that, you have this thing. It's almost impulsive, I think.
I'm very impulsive.
Right. Yeah. So
not the first person to tell me that.
I know. So what could you do to curb the impulse? There's a comedian, Mark Lundholm, and he has this thing about addicts and alcoholics, and it's a whole bit he does, and I think he has a CD titled it. It's called First Thought Wrong. First Thought wrong. That a lot of times when we're addicted or alcoholic, our first thought is completely wrong.
Oh, without
but we
question.
do it anyway.
Yeah.
I'm like, fuck you, I'm going to go drink a fifth of Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
That's a completely wrong thought, but we're going to go.
Seemed like a good idea at the time. Like,
yeah, we'll just go do it.
Yeah. Not worried
Well,
about
what's the second thought behind that, Phil? What would be the second thought? Oh, man, I drink a fifth of Johnny Walker. It would be good for a while. I might have a lot of fun, but what's it going to look like 10 hours from now, 12 hours from now, the next day, the rest of my life? I mean, now I got 35 years of recovery. Kind of like, well, would I just like toss it because of an impulse? Because I've had impulses before, and I was very I'm still impulsive on some things. Just ask my wife about me buying fishing gear. I'm pretty impulsive.
That's not a bad impulse, though. I mean,
well, it can be. It can get a little expensive at times, but anyway. She goes, "You got another fishing reel?" Well, what do you do with that? So that's kind of the thing. How do you get past that first thought? That would be a question for you to kind of think about. What if I just hold on to this, let it go, but I don't have to act on it right now?
when those super impulsive, like when I get that urge where my brain is just like, you got to get messed up.
Right.
It doesn't happen to the level where it's almost, I can't withstand it anymore.
Yeah.
But it the last relapse I had, I was driving home, and it's like crazy how it works. I've been doing, I was like 2 days away from hitting 3 months sober.
Yes.
And work was good. Me and my girlfriend were doing great.
Yeah.
Our relationship was strong, and everything was going good. I'm driving home one day, and boom, hit me like a ton of bricks. Pulled into the liquor store, sat there in the car for like an hour, and just battled myself.
Did you?
Internally to go. It's like 1 second I'm like, just go in. It's not a big deal. Nobody will know. And then I'm like, no, don't do that, because you're about to hit 3 months, sober.
Like two guys on each side of the shoulder.
It's like the demon and the angel. You know what I mean? Like, and then it ends up winning. It ended up winning, and I went in and bought a pint of 100 proof Smirnoff and drank the entire thing in the car.
Has the angel ever won?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And when you've been in a parking lot and then you've driven on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's such a brilliant synopsis of what it's like, because like normal people would just not understand. Well, just don't do it. Don't go in there. And I get it. Like those two guys we're having a battle.
People that don't like. I don't know. Years ago, I don't think addiction was viewed the same way it is today.
Yeah.
I think it's actually, there's research behind the fact that it's your brain doesn't function the same as a non-addict or normal brain functions.
Right.
So it doesn't, people just saying, well, just have some self-control. Well, it doesn't work like that. Mm-hmm. Self-control plays a little bit in it. But sometimes when your brain is telling you that it wants that rush of dopamine, unless somebody straps you down, good luck.
What do you believe spiritually?
I have faith.
Yeah.
I was raised Christian.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't, but then I kind of wanted to think for myself, and I kind of rejected it. I'm like, Noah's Ark and all that stuff, that shit can't be real. And we, and so I was just kind of like, and
well, I don't know. How do you know it can't be real? That would be my question.
Well, I'm just going by what I thought a long time ago.
No. Who the heck knows, right?
A guy getting swallowed by a fish for 3 days and spit out on a shore. I don't find that to be very realistic.
My man Jonah.
Yeah. But then I became. I like to watch documentaries, and this might sound stupid or but I love astrology and astronomy. Not astrology, astronomy and the universe and space. I think it's just fascinating.
Right.
And I was kind of like, there is no way that this just popped out of nowhere. So then I was kind of like, all right, maybe I need to, kind of think about this a little bit more, and then that's kind of how I found my faith.
I asked that question because over the years of because I also was I was back in Pablo Escobar's time in the late 80s. I was doing all his cocaine. And that's what brought me to my knees. I held my firstborn widely strung out on cocaine in the delivery room, and I said, I can't go on like this.
Like Johnny Depp and Blow?
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah.
And I've learned to just, when I got into recovery, and I didn't know what I believed in God, but I didn't really understand what it was. My prayer was, God help me. That's what I got into recovery with. And I've used that when I've had those impulses. 3 words, God help me. Or maybe it's just help me, to a power greater than I can't understand. And the next thing I know, I'm driving away from the package store, or I'm not calling my dealer, or whatever it was early on. It was just help me. I don't know, it was a spiritual, almost mystical type of experience where temporarily the urge was abated, just went away for a little while.
You think that was God helping you legitimately, or do you think it was just you saying, hey, I said God help me, so now I've got to pull away?
I don't know.
And see, that's why
I don't know.
That's why I struggled with faith.
But it doesn't matter. The point is, it doesn't matter.
Well, yeah, I guess it doesn't. You pulled away.
No, but it doesn't matter if, what it is. But for me, I would say, it was a power greater than me, outside of myself. Because then that's been reinforced over decades of seeking God and trying to find out what that was, that I've seen it manifest in other ways. But that's me personally. It's just a suggestion too,
No.
Because sometimes, you got the angel and the demon, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe the God help me, lightens up one of your characters and gives them a little more power, lightens up the angel so it has a little more power and says, get away, demon. And the next thing you know, you're driving away. I don't know.
I think for me, that scenario would for me, I think that if I was to say that or something like that, I think it would just be like, okay, well, that would just kind of bring sobriety and making the right choice to the forefront of my mind.
Yeah.
And then I think that's what would cause me to then be like, okay, I should not make this decision to drink and let me just get out of here.
Yeah.
Do I think that God's actually going to help your arm move and push the steering wheel and the gas pedal in the other direction? Absolutely not.
Have you ever tried it?
What, just saying, God, take my arm right now and just drive the car away?
Jesus, take the wheel, like Carrie in the Underwood.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen. And I think that, but that's something that I think that's why I struggled, and I still do now. I'm kind of like, why am I sitting here having to deal with this? But at the same time, it's, God gave us free will, and
right.
We have to help ourselves.
Well, here's a question: do you want to stay in recovery?
Of course.
You do?
Yeah.
Right now, today?
Yeah.
But not always?
I always want to be in recovery.
You do?
Now I do, yeah.
Okay.
I don't want to go back to that life. I'm tired.
Yeah.
My body's tired.
So maybe this is a big shift.
Bank account is tired.
But have you felt this way like that before? Or did you always have it in the back of your mind, like I can just return back down there? If I always had this idea that you're going to return to use. Because I'm not going to return to use, but then again, I don't know that, but that's my decision today.
When I was younger, I felt like I was invisible. Like I would just,
That's a superpower.
Yeah. It's, a level of arrogance, that's just not good. I'm just like, I can just keep doing this and I'll be sober here and there, but whenever I'm ready to drink again, I'll drink. But now it's like, okay, I'm going to be 40 next year. Mm-hmm. I am going down a path of having some serious health issues if I don't smarten up here.
Yeah.
And I'm going to end up having nobody.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to end up living in a motel somewhere with some 30-year-old car and no money in my bank account and nobody gives a shit about me. There's other things that I have now that I feel are motivating me that I didn't have before.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the best father that I can be. Mm-hmm. I want my family and friends to be able to rely on me when they need to, instead of me always having to turn to them. I have a woman that I love dearly, and I want to mend our relationship, and I want, to be able to be the best boyfriend I can be for her, and I want to be healthy for myself as well, obviously. I just don't want to live in that addiction lifestyle anymore. It's tired. I'm tired.
You know what? The way I was just thinking about while you're talking about all the examples of wanting to stay in recovery. For me, it's internal. That recovery allowed me to find peace inside. I didn't have peace. Oh my gosh, I was always full of anxiety, stress, worry, fear, anger, hatred. I don't want to live that way. And now recovery enabled me, in a good sense, to find inner peace. And it took a while and a process, but that's always been my goal, is to be peaceful inside so I could enjoy life.
And how do you realize, though, that you're at peace, though?
Because not a lot bothers me, and I don't worry about anything.
Yeah, see, I can't say the same.
I don't worry about anything. I just live in the moment. It's kind of like what you said about living in the moment, but you just live in the moment, clean, serene, sober, and all of a sudden you find like you're serene in a moment, and those moments build in each other. You find peace. You've already done it. You've already found moments of peace. You've been more peaceful here and mindful, just living in the moment, just talking with me, with probably not worrying about what's going to happen after, what's you're going to say to your girlfriend, that's going to happen. You're just focusing on the moment. That's the key to it. Staying right here in the present.
Yeah.
One of the best things I did when I had all these urges, especially for the Coke when I was early in recovery, was I'll use tomorrow. Then I just kept saying to myself over and over, I'll use tomorrow. I gave my
Interesting.
I gave my permission to use tomorrow. So when tomorrow shows up, what do I say?
Permission to use tomorrow.
Yeah, I give myself permission to use tomorrow, but I'm not going to use today. I'll use tomorrow. Because you know what I used to do when I was active? I'll quit tomorrow. I'll just use for today.
I can't even count how many times I've done that.
Right, I'll quit tomorrow, and I just switched that to saying I'll use tomorrow.
I'll sober up tomorrow. Yeah. I'll get back on track tomorrow.
I'll quit tomorrow, and now I'll just say I'll use tomorrow.
And it never happened.
Right.
Or barely.
Right. So if we say I'll use tomorrow, we just flip the script in our head. And I'll just say I'll use tomorrow.
But it didn't affect you negatively to even have that thought, even though you weren't going to act on it. Having the thought of using, you were able to. That didn't.
No, because I think one of the common misconceptions is that if we ignore that, it won't be there. Because we all know, we're all addicts and alcoholics. We all know that we can use anytime we damn want. And if we choose to, we're going to use. So I fully put that out there on the table, saying, I say it now. I'll go to a restaurant and they say, Mr. Valentine, you want a beer? Or can I get you a beer for dinner? I said, yeah, one's too many and 100's not enough. And they go, what? And they go, huh? I said, no, thank you. So I just
catch them off guard a little bit there.
Yeah, but I also say that I'll if I start drinking now, I don't know what will happen. It sounds tempting, looks good. I acknowledge the truth within me, but then it gives me the power to say, all right, I don't have to choose that now. I have another option.
I've never heard that take on it, or that approach.
Yeah, be realistic.
I mean,
be complete. You have been completely honest with me, very aware.
Yeah, could I leave here today and be like, screw it, and stop at the liquor store and relapse? I mean, of course, yeah,
of course.
Yeah.
So by saying that, does that make you want to do that?
No.
Right. You're just acknowledging that that's one of your options out of many. It's one option out of many.
Yeah.
So just which option is going to work best for you now. And if I was your recovery coach and you chose to go to the liquor store and get your Smirnoff or another, I said, okay, so that was your option. How'd that work out for you? And why'd you do that? Well, I'm just curious. After all you've been through, I'm curious, why would you pick that one?
Yeah. I mean,
And the last time you relapsed, and I don't know if why is the right answer, but right question, what were you feeling when you went for your last one, when you were sitting there? What was that so appealing
I mean,
for?
after I decided to buy it,
Yeah, but what was going on and all that?
I was pissed off.
See, good answer. You're well on your way.
Yeah, I was mad at myself.
I know, but were you mad ahead of time before you even did you have some
I was mad
anger?
when I felt the urge for it come into thought.
Yeah, so why did you put an emotion to it? Yeah, are you not supposed to have that? Are you pissed that you had it? Well, I mean, why?
Well, I mean, I think emotions are inevitable. I don't think you can ever get rid of those.
Perfect, right?
So, I mean, I think
So you get an urge, if you all of a sudden got an urge to use now, your emotion would be what? With that urge, anger, fear?
I think right now maybe not. I think my emotion would be like, hell no,
Good.
because it's just what I've lost this last time around on this last relapse kind of
It's almost like a healthy fear, right? 'Cause I would think about having the newborn baby and having urges to do cocaine. I'm like, man, that's frightening. If I was like, well, I don't want to do, so the urge to use, I would get,
I'm terrified of relapsing again.
yeah, good.
Because if I do,
That's a healthy fear.
if I do, I have no chance to get my life back.
And I would tell people if I relapsed again was like, I was just talking about this. I had my three good friends, Jim Beam, Jack Daniels, and Johnny Walker.
Yeah.
Jim, Jack, and Johnny. And I was the type of guy that when I was drinking, I could get a fifth and I would take the cap off and throw it out the window. There was no need for the cap.
Yeah, I wasn't going to get put back on the shelf. It's going to go in the trash can.
Yeah. And there was one time, 20 years in recovery, that I thought that was the best option. And the only thing that saved me is I, for some reason, picked up the phone and talked to actually the board president of CCAR at the time, and he talked me through it. But it was, sometimes there are options that become more viable or become the best option in your bag. I'll tell you the story. So when I thru hiked the Appalachian Trail in 2015, and a lot of people would plan out their meals, right? They would have this is my breakfast, this is my snack, this is my lunch, and I was never like that.
You shot from the hip.
Well, yeah. I was talking to my friend Paradox, and I asked her, I said, because she didn't do that either. I go, how do you know what to eat when it's time to eat? She goes, that's easy, right click. I said, it's easy. She goes, yeah, I always eat the best thing in my bag. Because then I'm always eating the best thing in my bag.
That's a cool way of looking at it.
Right. So if you go to your refrigerator, what do you want to eat, Kevin? And you're always saying, I'm going to eat the best thing in my refrigerator. You're always eating the best thing in your refrigerator. Even if you're left with a can of Spam and a packet of mustard, which one is the best thing in your refrigerator? I'm still eating it. So it's a perspective, but it goes to your options, right? That in your bag of choices, your food bag of choices, you have many options, of which always picking up and using is in your bag. You always have that option, but you also have a lot of other options. And then if you're always going to say, what's the best option in your bag, then pick the best option in your bag, period. Because I think too, could you paint a scenario where using might be the best option? Yeah, I'm open to that. Let's say, you had somebody close to you passed away, you're in a lot of physical pain, you were doing, I don't know. I've had a lot of people talk about death or of something, and the pain was so great they thought that using would relieve the pain for a little while. Okay.
I still wouldn't consider it the best option.
Right.
With where I'm at right now.
But I'm just trying to paint a scenario where there could be, right?
Yeah.
And in your mind, you might think it is. I was under a lot of emotional stress and turmoil. I thought using was the best option. But then I was pointed out that, well, dig in your bag a little further. You got a couple other options, too, right? And didn't pick that one up. So, it's kind of like you're a chef, when you're working, you probably can eat anything you want, right? More or less as part of the perk of working there.
Yeah. So it's a nice.
So are you gonna pick something you hate eating, you don't like?
Absolutely not.
You're gonna pick the best thing that you want at the time, right?
Yeah, of course.
Same goes for recovery choices. Always pick the best thing.
I like that.
Good. But you have and the other thing is, a lot of times we look as recovery as like consecutive, right? That these are the number of days I've put in. Like, okay, so I said I have 35 years. That's 35 years of continuous recovery, right? You have how long do you think have you been? Would you say you're in recovery this time? 10.
6 weeks.
6 weeks, cool. So let's do 6 weeks. So you have 6 weeks of consecutive recovery. All those times where you had all those different days, those don't go away when you're in recovery. What if recovery was cumulative? What if you had 10 times you were clean for 10 days? Is that 10 days of recovery, the last stretch, or is it 100 days total?
I'd have a few years under my belt then.
Well, right. But do you think they went away?
No.
They're informing your decisions today, right? I was once in an Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, and a guy would introduce himself. He said, I have 10 years in recovery except for 3 days. So you didn't know when the 3 days were. You didn't know if they were like scattered in the 10 years or the last 3 days, but it was.
I like that. That's funny.
But it's an interesting perspective, right? Yeah. Because we've been not brainwashed, but the culture says that we want to be consecutive, and there's reasons for that.
Start over, pretty much.
But do you? Does that really make sense? So if you had 20 years of recovery, you relapsed for a day, got back in recovery, did the 20 years go away?
I think it's also though like people like test themselves and maybe or they say, okay, I've been sober for 2 months, I can keep going without having a mishap or a slip. I think it's more like are you able to stay away from it consecutively as well? I think that gives people pride knowing that, hey, I've been sober 2 months, or I've been sober 2 years without one slip or mistake.
I agree.
I think it motivates you a little bit more.
Yeah. But it's also not that it's not. I kind of like, you get on a streak, right? It's momentum. I'm like on a 35-year, one day at a time streak. Why would I? I don't want to break it. There's some pride.
That'd be heartbreaking.
Well, there's some pride to that too. Like it's an accomplishment. I agree with that. Yeah. But I certainly wouldn't shame or belittle anybody because they relapsed. And sometimes in fellowship circles or recovery, we get ostracized if we go back out or whatever, so.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, so I just think it's more, it's just an alternative. I do think, for me, consecutive works better. I don't want to say, okay, I got 6 days this week, I'm going to stay in recovery, and on the 7th day, I'm going to go party.
Yeah, 5 days next week. And
it probably wouldn't work too well.
No, probably not.
For me, I'm just talking about me. I don't know. It might work for somebody, but it would work for me.
Would not work for me.
Yeah. So I enjoyed our conversation. Do you got any final thoughts you'd like to add or share about what are you going to do for your recovery today? That's my last question for you.
I'm going to try to help my ex-girlfriend get through her depression for the day and try to make her smile, and I'm going to talk to my son, and I'm going to cook dinner for my mother and my aunt tonight. And that'll keep me, I'll go shopping at Whole Foods, and I just keep myself busy, knowing that I'll be cooking tonight and entertaining my aunt and my mom with food and stuff like that.
That's nice.
It makes in my mind know that I'm not just gonna be sitting in bed where I could be like, all right, I'm bored, let me drink right now.
What you're doing, and what we've talked about.
Yeah.
You're helping somebody else.
Yeah, I'm trying.
And you like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good for you.
It's gratifying.
And I believe in you, Kevin. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.